Shalom Aleichem, good avond, erev tov, dobre wieczór, or good morning to those who are with us from the US. Welcome to our another episode of Your Roots in Poland webinars on genealogy in Poland. I think we will wait a few seconds to begin our today webinar. Okay, everything works. So my name is Kamila Bursiart, and today I have pleasure to present you a handy dandy guide for Polish Jewish genealogy. As this meeting will last about an hour, this time we'll begin at the end of 18th century and go to the 30s of 20th century. And in another episode of Mishpokhe webinar, we will discuss war and post-war Jewish fates in Poland, and we'll learn how to trace those family histories in the documents. Some information that I will present today may be kind of basic or already known to some of you, and some of all of the information, because I see some of you are asking about the time, so other information about our next webinar will be on our Your Roots in Poland fan page on Facebook, so stay with us, and we'll let you know about other webinars. So let's start. And before we start, at the beginning, I would like to invite you to our Facebook group, Polish Genealogy Helper. When you will have any questions you'd like to ask us, and when we would not have enough time to discuss this this evening or morning, depending on where we are, just feel free to ask us a question on Polish Genealogy Helper, and we'll try to answer. So before we start our research, we usually have several information on our ancestors. We know that they were from Poland and that they were Jewish. The key information we need to begin our journey to the past is to localize the place, the village, town, or city our great, or simply grandparents were from. Sometimes the documents such as passenger lists from Ellis Island on any other form of the documents your ancestors had to fill when arrived to the new place they lived. We do find names of places that are very unique, but at the same moment, they are impossible to localize or Google. So here's one of, here you can see one of the websites that can be very helpful. This is a list made by YIVO, Institute for Jewish Research, and here, as you can see, you may find names of the places. Some of them are in Polish, and some of them are in Yiddish, and they are translated into. They are transliterated, so you don't need to read alphabet to understand them. And we may find such a situation that, for example, the place that is listed on the document doesn't seem like any other place we could know. For example, as you may see here, when we have Annopol, the Yiddish name for Annopol is Rachev. And the same thing goes with the case of Augustowo, the town of Augustowo, which was Jagesztowe in Yiddish. This is more similar and easier to guess, but still we'll have to be aware that there are some differences. The second very common difficulty we meet just at the beginning is that a huge amount of newcomers didn't list the exact place of their birth in front of the official when they had to fill in the documents. This is also the fact that surprises or make some seriously confused. And it can happen, for example, because of two reasons. The first is that our ancestor named the place he lived in before emigrating, but was born somewhere else. And the second, also very common reason, is that our ancestor was from a very tiny village that was next to a small town. Like, for example, I found also a name that is hard to pronounce. So there was a very tiny place called Brzysko-Żystewko, and that was next to Żnin. And I know that when you're not familiar to Polish language, it sounds like a mix of random consonants put together. So instead of that, our great-grandfather, let's say, would report that he was from Bromberg, which is the closest bigger city. And Bromberg is pronounceable, but as well in Polish, this is Bydgoszcz. So this list from the Yiddish topo, from YIVO, Jewish Institute for Yiddish Institute for Jewish Research, sorry, may be very helpful. And now we will go to the names. As most of you are aware, the names used to be changed a little bit or a little more when arriving. So here you can see the very useful to us list made by Jakub Rodwand. This is a list of Jewish names that were used in Poland. So when we are not sure about the version, just we can check it here. And very similar thing goes when we are talking about surnames, Jewish surnames, because sometimes they were translated. Like, for example, they were translated like the same name, like they were meaning the same, like piekarz and baker, for example. And the other, once we had a case when we looked through all the records in one of the towns, looking for Allen family, when Allen sounds quite possible. And then our client just found out that the proper surname wasn't Allen, but Jeleń, which is not very far, but still makes a difference. So we had to check all the records once again. So this is just the start, or just before we start, just a note that please, we have to be careful with the documents. And I've decided that we will start at the very beginning, where the most of the lucky persons can determine the point of their oldest known Jewish relative from Poland. So it is usually the end of 18th century. Jewish records begin in Poland in 1826, according to the Napoleonic Code that was established in the Kingdom of Poland. And since 1826, we have separate Jewish metrical books. But still, we can go farther, and we can reach earlier sometimes. Here you can see simple act from the Russian partition. This is the death certificate of Cerka Moskowicz. And here we can read that she passed away in 1808. So this is several years before we had separate Jewish books. This is because some of the priests used to include Jewish inhabitants of the villages, of the towns they had a parish in. So sometimes we can look also for Jewish entries among the Roman Catholic books. Unfortunately, it all depended on the priest, and also on our ancestors. So we never know before we check if there are any Jewish entries in among the Catholic books. And here we are several years later. This is already Jewish metrical record, like separate Jewish metrical book from the Russian partition. And as you can see, this is a kind of a mini story. It usually says that it happened in front of the official, that a person called, for example, Shmuel Abramovich Goldberg, 26-year-old trader, in the presence of the witnesses, which were usually one Melamed and one other person. And they reported that somebody is born or somebody has passed away. Usually in that kind of documents, we can find such information as the name of course, the name of the person that is born, or the name of the person that just passed away, or the names of the persons that are getting married or divorced. But we can also find the name of the father. Not usually, not only we can know it about from the separate information that was written, But sometimes we just hear a phrase like Isaac Aronovich Fisher. And from that Aronovich part, which is a patronym, we know that the father of Isaac Fisher was Aaron, because of this Aronovich part. And this is very, very informative. Usually the most helpful with information is our marriage acts. And when we zoom it here, we may see, I hope, we may see a tiny difference. And the difference is the language and the alphabet also, because those records were written in Russian. And now let me explain why. It happened because after because after 1868, the language, as the consequence of the Tsarist repressions after the January uprising, was changed into Russian. So all the way until the First World War, we will see records from this part of Poland written in Russian. However, the meaning and the whole and all the story didn't change. And this is another example, also from the Russian part of Poland. This is here we can see birth certificates from Białystok, and parts that were places that were a part of Russian Empire had such table shape of the records. Basically, the information is the same. So we know who is born, who are the parents, and we know the day of birth, and also the day of the circumcision of giving a name when we speak about girls. And we will just pass to Galician Records, so to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And here we can see very, very similar information, with the difference that the tables where the records were written in Polish and in German. And we can see the sound is lost. Is the sound back? Okay, perfect, thank you. So now we are going to Galician Records. Here, as I said, we have German or Polish language. We have information about parents. We have information Yes, the documents that translate the headings from the records from different parts of Poland you can find on our blog. Not only devoted to Jewish genealogy, but to genealogy from Poland in general. So I just let to go through to show you how it looks and what kind of information we can find here, and then we will talk about it, how to find them. So in Galician Records, we have also the information such as occupation. So we know what job could have our ancestor, how old was he or she at the time of the document being created. And another very interesting part is notes, uwaga, written in the last column, because sometimes priests or rabbis or the officials have written their additional information sometimes, and a very common thing is that among the records, most of the Jewish children are written as illegitimate, because the marriages were taken before just in front the rabbi, and they were religious, and the document had a secular character. So yeah, so we can learn things like that the father confirms or is thinking about confirming that he's the father. Sometimes there are other kind of information, but also, which is very important in the Galicia case, or in the Galician cases, that children may be written under the surname of the mother and not of the father, or they can have two surnames. So this is very important to be careful when we research Galician records. And now we will jump into the last partition, Prussian partition. And this is, as you can see, this is a document written in German. It comes from the Jewish community in Bydgoszcz, and the information we find among these records are basically the same. And as it goes for Prussia, until the 1874, everything looks similar to the books and documents we already discussed. But since the 1st October 1874, there were created civil registry offices, and they were secular. So among them, we can find records of people of any belief, of any religion. They had three forms: A for births, as we can see here on the slide, B for marriages, and C for deaths. There was a new information on this kind of records because it was mentioning the surname of the person that came to register the birth or the death. In Prussia, all like other church and Jewish records were still being created. So we have another source of information where we can look for the newer than 1874 records. And there is also another information that may be very useful when it comes to the records from any part of Poland that is younger than 100 years old. All of the documents that were older than 100 years old are stored in the state archives. When they are younger, they are stored in local civil registry offices. And we have also discussed it many times in our other webinars, so just to make a long story short, we have to apply directly to the civil register office, and we need to be directly related with the person whose act we are applying for. And now we go to the part that may be very helpful when we try to look for our ancestors online. So let's just go into the useful databases. And first of them will be virtual Städtel. This is the project led by the Museum of the History of Polish Jews, Polin, in Warsaw. And this is a very huge project that has a big amount of information. We can have here, which I found very helpful, information about towns. Here I have listed Warsaw, for example. So we can see the information on local history. We can find here maps, some information about taxpayers or about the voters, or which is very helpful when we speak about smaller towns or villages. We can also see what kind of publications are written on our ancestors' hometown, or what is happening in the Jewish life in this place now. Another is, I think this is the most common among everyone who just searched online for his Jewish ancestors. This is Jewish Gen. And Jewish Gen is also a combination of various databases that may be very useful. And here we can see that there are several for Eastern Europe, for Belarus, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. But just let's go to the part that is very That is the best place to start in the most of cases. This is Jewish record indexing. That is a separate project, and it is a very helpful database, because here, when we look for your town, we can see various places with the provinces and gubernias listed. But when we go further, so when we choose, let's say, our Rachev, so Annopol, we can see here what kind of the documents are available online, or what kind of the documents are also already indexed. So what kind of the documents are searchable at this site. And here we can see that there are some marriages, birth, death records, etc. And that some of them are already indexed and already applied into the database, and some of them are in progress, or there's no information. So when we search, we can be sure that some years we'll find the records on our ancestors. So let's go. Let's just try it. We'll say we'll look, for example, for the Litmanovich family. And now we can see many results from other from various gubernias. Here we have, for example, births, marriages, deaths from Kalisz Jewish community. And we go on, because when we have the part click to view filled in, we can just go directly to the scan of the document. So this one is, unfortunately, this is in Russian, but we just went to the marriage certificate of Frajda Kalmanowicz, and it brings us directly to the site of Polish State Archives. And as we go with Polish State Archives official site, this is Szukaj w Archiwach, available also in English, partly, unfortunately. We can search for a community. I just decided to look for Dąbrowa Tarnowska Jewish community. We need to remember that we have to click on vital records and civil registers. And here we have various results for the Jewish community. So the thing Mojżeszowe, as you can see, there are Jewish records. Here we have, this is the part that is unfortunately not translated. This is Księga Urodzeń, so the book of births. And we can also see here if the documents are digitalized or not. And when we have some that are digitalized, we just go further. And we can choose here, as in family search, for example, we can just look for various documents. And when we have an ancestor that is from Lithuania, so when our ancestors were Litvaks, we just go to Litvak 6, so the Lithuanian Jewish Special Interest Group. that works in a similar way. This is also one of the projects that is available via the Jewish Gen website. And here we can research for various towns. We have a map where we can see whether there were Jewish communities, where was the closest Jewish community, if there is a Jewish cemetery there. This page is constantly under construction, so there are more and more data available. Some of them are available for non-signed in persons, users, and yeah. And here we go. We just follow the Lithuanian trace. This is the page Archivai LT. So this is the part of Lithuanian state archives. And here we have, unfortunately, only in Lithuanian language. This part is available. We have fondų rodykles. It means that this is the inventory. And when we choose bendrą žydų bendruomenių metrikų ir žydų civilinės būklės aktų knygos dalykinė vietovardžių rodyklė. So the list of Lithuanian Jewish communities with their books and metrical books and other documents. We can see what documents are available for our shtetl. Unfortunately, some of these documents are in Russian, some of them are in Lithuanian, but at least we can just take a look on the signature and be sure that there are some documents available and some are not. And this is the analogical Lithuanian page that is analogical to Szukaj w archiwach. So search the archive, the Polish search the archive. This is paveldas. Paveldas means in Lithuanian heritage. And here we can look not only for the documents such as metrical records, but also for some other documents on Lithuanian Jewry. And not only Jewry, also on Lithuanians, on Poles, etc. And let's go further. This is a very surprising place for me in the internet, because this is simply a Ukrainian version of the word shtetl when we search the Wikipedia. So in Ukrainian it is it is еврейское местечко. And here, when we scroll down, we have many documents from various places. From Ukraine. So when we just click on this specific period, on this specific place, it lists us to Wikipedia Commons, and we can just look through the metrical books or through other documents. And then there is another one, which is helpful to every parts also for Poland, for Lithuania and Ukraine, but also for Belarus. And Belarusian records are a little bit harder to trace online. So this is a wonderful site. This is the site of the Miriam Weiner Roads to Roots Foundation. And here when we search a particular name of the shtetl, we can just see what kind of the documents in various Russian, Ukrainian, Belarusian, Lithuanian, Polish archives are available on this place. And here we go to the last one from the databases. This is Gesher Galicia. And this is also very, very interesting place for those who look for ancestors from Galicia. Here we can find the information on which Jewish community our shtetl belonged to. As you can see, just let's take a look for the first town called Adamiesh. We can see that the Jewish community was in Dąbrowa. So when we are trying to look for our ancestors born in Adamiesh, we have to look for the documents for the Jewish records from Dąbrowa. And Gesher Galicia is not only the Galician town locator, but it is also very, very useful information on the press, on the, for example, the latest project is about Jewish medical students from different Galician universities. So we can research here very different information. And now let's just take a look on other pre-World War II sources. Here we can see voters lists from the Jewish community in Łódź. So when we just look for a year, we can see where our ancestor lived. So we have their address. There are also other school documents. For example, for Galicia, we have reports from Galician schools, and we can check, for example, if our ancestor was a good student, because they're written in Polish usually, and we can see here whether our grandfather was a good student, or maybe that he was in a class 3rd A. And here is just a random page from Łódź Jewish School. So here we have just a list of the students. Sometimes we have their marks. And now we can just take a look on passport. This is a passport from the 20s, and which is very, very interesting. Jewish passport had family photographies here, and when our ancestors emigrated from Poland in the 20s, we can know that we can search also for the application forms. Another thing is craftsman card. To jest karta rzemieślnicza. We can learn here that Hershko Gelbert was allowed to be a tailor. And this is a very interesting kind of information. This is like the testimony of morality. Here there is one written for a person from Lublin, and another newer one is also the certificate, the testimony of morality from the 20th century. And they both say that they are that the person behaves good, that is trustworthy. And another information we can find on the gravestones. As it goes for the Jewish cemeteries in Poland and their indexation, this is still under construction, ongoing projects. You will get some of them listed in the email. This is, for example, Macewa from Okopowa Cemetery in Warsaw. This is the gravestone of Hanoch Henich Rubinstein, son of Meir Zeev. And we can read here that he died on the 13th February 1916, lived 85 years old, lived 85 years and was from Terespol. And yes, as I look on the chat, we will send you a document where you can find this kind of information, because the searching for them is a little bit more complicated. All of them are stored and all of them are digitalized from the Polish State Archive site, so Szukaj w archiwach. But then we need to look for specific Jewish records from specific town. And here we go to, here we reach the end actually. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope it was at least summary of the things you could already know, or maybe you have other questions. We will be happy to answer them on Polish Genealogy Helper Facebook group. And we have also a little surprise for those who survived until the end. So with a code roots in Poland, you may get 50% discount for MyHeritage subscription until the May 8th. So very thank you for your time, and toda raba, asheinem dank, and show question list. Sorry, this shows that I will answer the questions. What were the questions? Oh, sorry. Oh, perfect. Yes, there are other. Okay, so those lists, as I said, are stored in Polish state archives. Some of them are also stored in Jewish Historical Institute. Yeah, so actually I think I have answered all the questions I see here. Yes, I think so. Okay. One more question. Oh, is it possible to locate records from the journalism school in Warsaw? Probably yes. I would try looking for at the beginning. It depends on the period of time, of course. But I will just take a look into the inventory of the Warsaw archives and on the probably they may be a unit of journalism school from Warsaw. You just need to search the archives, so szukaj w archiwach. And if this is not, if it's not responding, you may also try searching some online and non-online newspapers. So that would be two traces I would try at the beginning. The translations of the headers in different languages can be found at our yourrootsinpoland.com website, blog. I think yes, we can. So they're in our Your Roots in Poland website, so you can check this place. This is very specific question, so it will be hard to answer without searching the databases. So so if you can just post this question on Polish genealogy helper, and we'll try to answer this. Yes, there are divorce records. You may find them on Family Search, as somebody mentioned here, and also at Szukaj w archiwach, and the other databases. There are mostly not all of them are searchable, for example, via Jewish record indexing, but they are still available to read online. Some of them online, some of them only in the archives. But yes. When we request a document that is younger than 100 years old, um, actually, the best and the simplest thing is to be the simplest way is to be the direct relative of the person whose act we're asking for, or to be the only or one of the only living. Like when there are no closer relatives to the person about the document is, um, then we can apply. And this is very important to describe how the story when we apply into the civil office register. Okay, so this is the last question. I would recommend you to check the database that will be listed. This is Jewish cemeteries. I'm not sure at the moment, but you will get the Jewish cemetery, or maybe try find a grave. Also searchable via Jewish Gen. Maybe there are some, but everything depends on local historians, on local enthusiasts who are able to reach the tombstones. So yeah. So yeah, that was the last question, I think. So we'll just I will just go back to the thank you slide. And as I mentioned many times, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to write to ask us on Polish Genealogy Helper. And there will be also the second webinar on the war and post-war Jewish history. So thank you for your attention, and bye.